Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sukho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Śrīmatī Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Dwarka Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 82, Text 17. Pṛthā bhrātṛin svasḍr vīkṣya tat-putrān pitarāv bhrātṛ-patnīr mukundaṁ ca jahau saṅkathayā śucaḥ. Pṛthā bhrātṛin svasḍr vīkṣya tat-putrān pitarāv bhrātṛ-patnīr mukundaṁ ca jahau saṅkathayā śucaḥ. pṛthā bhrātṛin svasḍr vīkṣya tat-putrān pitarāv api bhrātṛ-patnīr mukundaṁ ca jahau saṅkathayā śucaḥ. Mataji. Mataji. Pṛthā Kuntī, bhrātṛin, her brothers, svasḍr and sisters, vīkṣya, seeing, tat, there, putrān, children, pitarāv, her parents, api, also, bhrātṛ, of her brothers, patnīḥ, the wives, mukundaṁ, Lord Kṛṣṇa, ca, also, jahau, she gave up, saṅkathayā, while talking, śucaḥ, her sorrow. Translation. Queen Kuntī met with her brothers and sisters and their children, and also with her parents, her brothers' wives, and Lord Mukunda. While talking with them, she forgot her sorrow. We can repeat together. Queen Kuntī met with her brothers and sisters and their children, and also with her parents, her brothers' wives, and Lord Mukunda. While talking with them, she forgot her sorrow. Purport. Even the constant anxiety of a pure devotee, apparently just the opposite of the impersonalist śānti, can be an exalted manifestation of love of God, as exemplified by Śrīmatī Kuntīdevī, the aunt of Lord Kṛṣṇa and mother of the Pāṇḍavas. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur unmilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantekam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmatī Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adigaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this text number 17 begins a series of 5 slokas. It's a conversation between Kuntīdevī and Sri Krishna's father Vasudeva. Now, Kuntīdevī, at the time of her birth, she was born here in Mathura to the commander of the Yadu tribes. His name was Surasena. And at that time, this entire area of Mathura and the adjunct districts, he was such a powerful leader that the entire district was called Surasena after him. Now, he had 10 sons, and the first of the sons, the most powerful, that was Vasudeva. He also had 5 daughters. Now, Surasena, his sister, had a son, and his name was Kuntīboja. Kuntīboja, on the other hand, had no children. He was issueless. And because Surasena and Kuntīboja, they were very close cousins, Surasena promised Kuntīboja, this was after Vasudeva had been born, the first son, that if I have a daughter, I will give that daughter to you, and you can raise her as your own child. When he started to make alliance with many of the other demons, Trinavarta, Pralamba, Aga, Putana, all of the demons that Krishna ultimately killed. So as Kamsa became more and more powerful, the Yadu kings began to flee into other countries all over the world just to protect themselves and their families from the atrocities of Kamsa. Now then, when Kamsa heard the unembodied voice saying that the 8th child of his sister Devaki would kill him, he became even more ferocious. And those who had stayed in Mathura with him, he started to even torture them. He locked up Vasudeva and Devaki. He killed the first 6 sons of Vasudeva. And then Narada Muni, he came and informed Kamsa that actually the death of your life is in the home of Nanda Maharaj. So then Kamsa began his atrocities against the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And Krishna and Balaram very playfully killed all of those demons who came. So it was becoming worse and worse for the Yadavas. Many of the Yadavas fled. Those who did not flee, such as Akrura, they came under the reign of Kamsa and pretended to be his friend just because they had heard the prophecy that Krishna would come and kill Kamsa, and they wanted to have darshan of Krishna. So they were waiting for Krishna to appear. So Kuntīdevī, in the meantime, she was in the Himalayas with her husband, and one beautiful spring day, springtime, we know, just as we have Holi, even here when Krishna was a young boy, the first day of the first day of spring being Basant Panchami. At that time, Krishna also, with his friends, they wanted to enjoy the spring festival, and Nanda Maharaj could understand that during this spring season, there's no way I'm going to get Krishna to take care of the cows properly because of spring fever. So for 45 days, Krishna and his friends, they played holy, and they enjoyed going just from place to place with their friends. So similarly, all over the world, the influence of Cupid becomes very prominent during this spring month. His bow with the flowers and the string of his bow with the bees, the buzzing, everything is conjunct with enjoying in the spring season. So even in the Himalayas, where it's usually cold, snowy, very difficult, a good place for austerities, in the spring season, the flowers bloom, it becomes very beautiful. And Pandu, one day, while he was roaming with his second wife, Madri, in the hills of the Himalayas, he became struck with desire for his wife. And though she adamantly tried to ward him off, due to the influence of Cupid and the spring season, he came upon his wife and instantly, at that moment, died. So Madri was crying pitiably, and the other people nearby heard her. Kunti Devi came. Madri said, I couldn't stop him. Now our husband is dead. So Kunti Devi, she fainted on the spot, and she wanted to leave the world with her husband. But Madri, she said, no, I'm the cause of his death, therefore I should leave with my husband. And we have 5 children. What had happened was, when Pandu decided that he was going to renounce the world and take up vanaprastha, Kunti Devi was very opposed to that decision because he was the king and he had to have a successor. So then she told him about the boon that she had, and Pandu decided to use that boon to have children. Because even, just as the case of Kamsa, Kamsa was not the real son of Ugrasen. He was the son of Gobila, a mischievous yaksha. But because the wife, her name was Padmavati, she was married to Ugrasena. Therefore, Ugrasena accepted Kamsa as his legal son. So similarly, although Pandu was not going to father the children of Kunti, they were going to be considered his sons because he was the husband of Kunti. So first they decided to call Dharmaraj, and they had the first son, Yudhisthira. Then they called Vayu, they had Bhima. Then they called Indradev. He's the king of the demigods, and Arjun was born. At that time, Vasudeva, who heard about all of the calamities of his sister, he decided now is the time to step in and help his sister. So from here, he sent his priest. His priest's name was Kashyapa. He sent maidservants, he sent gold, he sent silver, he sent all different types of playthings for the children, because now there were 3 children, and he sent them all to Sata Shringa and had Kashyapa perform the birth ceremonies, the name-giving ceremonies, and the initiation of the boys. He also did the hair-cutting ceremonies. Everything that was required for the Kshatriyas, Kashyapa performed on behalf of the elder brother, Vasudeva, for his sister Kunti. So Kunti was very pacified, very grateful that Vasudeva had helped her at that time. Now, Madri, she was childless, and her co-wife had 3 children. So she was very depressed. So she asked her husband that, can you ask Kuntī to allow me to use the mantra so I can also have children? Now Kuntī, she didn't want to give the mantra. The mantra was given to her. But at the request of her husband, she allowed Mataji to use that mantra once. Mataji was very intelligent. She used that mantra and called the Ashvini Kumars, who were twins, and therefore she got twin boys. So now she had 2 boys, and Kuntī had 3 boys. And due to the rivalry of co-wives, she also wanted to have 3 children like her co-wife. So she asked Pandu, can you ask her if I can use it just one more time? And Kuntī refused. She said, look what she did the first time. She got twins. I don't know who she's going to call this time, and then she'll have more sons than me. So it was after that time that Pandu, that unfortunate situation happened, because Mataji was pining to have a 3rd child. This is the backstory. So now Mataji and Pandu, they died in the fire, the funeral pyre. Kuntīdevī now, she was alone with the 5 children. She went back to the kingdom of the Kurus to take shelter of her elders, Bhishmadev, Dronacharya, the elders of the Kurus, and she was given shelter there. But there was rivalry, because Dhritarashtra, he wanted his sons to be the successors. Although he could not be the king, he did not want Pandu's sons to take over the kingdom. So there was a natural rivalry, and this rivalry became poisonous. Bhima, who was the most powerful of all of the young boys, he used to tease the Kaurava boys, especially Duryodhana. And they hated Bhima. So they made a first plan that they would try to kill only Bhima. And they gave him poisonous cake. That poisonous cake was eaten by Bhima because he loved to eat. And he fell into the river. In the river, he was bitten by poisonous serpents. The poison of the serpents counteracted the poison of the cake. And he was saved by Vasuki, and he came out alive. But everyone could understand what the mischief had been done by the Kauravas. So they failed the first attempt. Then, with the help of Dhritarashtra himself, they built a house made of lac. Lac is wax. It's like wax. It's highly flammable. You can light it, and it lights like a match. So they built this house in the Dehradun area, and they invited Kuntī and her sons. You go there and have a nice time. You can live there in the springtime, beautiful weather up there. So they suspected something, but they went and lived in that house, and they couldn't live peacefully. They always were thinking, well, they already tried to kill Bhima once. What are they scheming now? Vidura, he knew what they were scheming, and he secretly informed the Pāṇḍavas and Kuntī through different word jugglery that this house is going to catch fire. You have to get out of here immediately. So they built a tunnel, and they prearranged the burning of the house. And they prearranged that some 5 sons and a wife who had come to stay at the doorway of the palace, they were burnt up in the house. And therefore, everyone was under the impression, although Kuntī and her sons had escaped through the tunnel, everyone was under the impression that they had died in the fire. Now, they had escaped. Everyone was mourning. Even Krishna and Balaram, though they knew everything, they could understand what the future would hold. They came to Hastinapur to mourn the death of Kuntī and the Pāṇḍavas. Everyone thought they were dead. Now they had escaped. When they escaped, they couldn't go back to the city. They wanted everyone to think that they were dead. Otherwise, again and again, they would try to kill them. And they escaped into the jungles. And that night, they had nowhere to stay. They were sleeping on the bare ground, and the leaves were covering them. And Bhima, being the most powerful, he couldn't sleep. He knew that in the jungle there were rakshasas, there were wild animals, there were snakes. He stayed up the whole night, and he was simply lamenting, particularly for his dear mother. He said, "My mother, she's a queen. She was the queen of the entire Kaurava, of the whole planet. And now she's lying on the bare ground with no protection, only the leaves covering her. She only lived in palaces. She was the most beautiful woman in the world, so powerful. And look at her now, lying on the ground, the bare ground." So he was lamenting the plight of his mother. So after that, because they had to be in hiding, they went to stay in the house of a Brahmin, and Bhima killed Bakasura. They went to stay in the house of a potter, and at that time the Swayamvara of Draupadi at Panchali was occurring. And Kuntīdevī, she encouraged Yudhishthira, you go there and you take the hand of Panchali, of Draupadi. So the Pāṇḍavas went there, they left her there in the house of the potter. Arjuna won the Swayamvara, and Draupadi was brought back there. And Krishna and Balaram were also at the Swayamvara. So everyone had an idea that only Arjuna could have been able to do what he did by heating the eye of the fish in a moving wheel. Krishna and Balaram, they knew everything. So as soon as the Pāṇḍavas and Draupadi left, no one knew where they went, no one knew who they were, nothing. They went to the house of the potter to show their mother what they had brought back. She inadvertently commanded them, whatever you have, you share it equally amongst the 5 of you. And therefore, Vyasadeva came and married Draupadi to all 5 of the Pāṇḍavas. So Krishna and Balaram, they followed the Pāṇḍavas and Draupadi back to the potter's house. And at that time, for the first time, they met the Pāṇḍavas and Kuntī in the potter's house. Krishna embraced Arjuna, Balaram embraced Bhima. They were both the same ages. Nakula, Sahadeva, Arjuna offered their obeisances to Balaram. Krishna and Balaram offered their obeisances to Yudhishthira. They all offered their respects to Draupadi, their wife. And then life went on. So after that time, the Pāṇḍavas had been discovered. So they came back to the Kaurava dynasty, and with much diplomatic endeavor, half of the kingdom was given to the Pāṇḍavas, Indraprastha. And it's a long story, it takes up thousands of slokas in the Mahabharata. At that time, Indraprastha was established by the Pāṇḍavas, and Yudhishthira wanted to perform the Rajasuya Yajna. So he invited Krishna to come for that. So now is the time when this pastime takes place. Most of the acharyas say that this solar eclipse happened before the Rajasuya. Sanatana Goswami says that if you read the list of all of the kings who came to offer their respects to Ugrasen, to Vasudeva, you'll notice that 2 kings are missing. Very powerful kings. Jarasandha is not there, and Shishupal is not there. So, if Jarasandha and Shishupal are absent, Sanatana Goswami says that this solar eclipse happened after the Rajasuya. All the other acharyas say that this happened before the Rajasuya, because Duryodhana was there, all of the Kauravas had also come. So whether it was right before, whether it was right after, only Krishna knows. So now we come to this sloka. This sloka, Vasudeva had not seen his sister since she left the palace. When Surasen took pṛthā away from Mathura to Kunti Bhoja's kingdom, he did not even allow pṛthā to say goodbye to her mother because it would be too heartbreaking. He just took her on the chariot, and she didn't see her family after that for so many years. Now finally, after so many distresses and calamities, they're meeting at Kurukshetra. So, Kuntīdevī, being a pure devotee, having undergone extreme distress at this time, they had not yet been exiled through the dice match, she sees her brother. And in this sloka, Kunti met with her brothers and sisters, their children, and also with her parents, her brothers' wives, and Lord Mukunda. So Kuntīdevī is seeing Krishna. Actually, the real reason that everyone came to Kurukshetra was so that they could have darshan of Mukunda. They could all see Krishna there. They all heard Krishna was coming with all of his wives, with all of the inhabitants of Dwarka. So they all wanted to come, all the rishis, all the inhabitants of Braja, they all wanted to come see Krishna. So here Kunti and Vasudeva are meeting after a very long time. She doesn't blame Vasudeva that why did you not protect me during all these calamities. She, in her pure devotional mentality, understood that this was all the cause of the Supreme Lord, and you were helpless. Now Vasudeva, in the coming slokas, he explains that while you were undergoing so many calamities, we were undergoing similar calamities here in Mathura. I had been imprisoned along with my wife. I had to see that wretched tyrant Kamsa kill our 6 sons in front of us. Ugrasen was locked up. Everyone was suffering. The Yadus had to flee in all directions. So we were also suffering. Why is that? He gives, sometimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are slokas with different words. In one version, you'll find one word. In another version, you'll find another word. So coming up in text 20, he says in this particular version, Daiva kridanakan naraha. That's text 20. So in some versions, it says Isha kridanakan naraha. So Daiva means destiny, that we're all toys, that all the naras, all the human beings are toys in the hands of Daiva, or destiny. Or all the naras are toys in the hands of Isha, the Supreme Lord. Daiva comes from the word Deva. Deva means the Supreme Lord. So they mean the same thing. So Vasudeva was explaining to his sister that there was nothing I could do because we're all toys in the hands of destiny and the Supreme Lord. I could not move from my place because I was imprisoned in the house of Kamsa, my own brother-in-law. You were in hiding. You couldn't even come out of hiding, otherwise your sons would be killed. So what could I do? I didn't know where you were, and I was imprisoned above that. So sometimes in this list, for instance, in this particular sloka, her brothers, she finally meets her brothers, her sisters, their children, her parents, her brothers' wives, all family members. Now, one time we were sitting with Srila Prabhupada, And we know also in Bombay, there was a huge Kurukshetra war going on between the Devas, that's the devotees, and the great demon, Mr. Nair. Big war going on. And the government officials took the side of the Nairs, and the devotees took the side of the devotees. And one of those devotees, his name was Mr. Seti. And Mr. Seti, he had such devotion for Srila Prabhupada that in the daytime, when the municipal officers came and broke down our temple, that night, Mr. Seti came with his construction crew, and overnight, before the ordinance could be made by the government that no temple could be built, overnight, he rebuilt the temple. So Prabhupada was very appreciative of the service of Mr. Seti. And to show his appreciation, whenever Prabhupada was in Bombay, he would bring the devotees for kirtan at Mr. Seti's house in Juhu scheme. It wasn't far away. So we would go with Prabhupada for the kirtan. And before the kirtan, Prabhupada would be sitting, and Mr. Seti, out of love for Prabhupada, he would bring all of his family members. And he would say very humbly to Prabhupada, "This is my son, this is his wife, these are his children, next batch. This is my daughter, this is her husband, this is her children, these are my..." So he would bring all of his family members to meet Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would bless them. It's no harm to give blessings. So then Mr. Seti would take his family members away. Prabhupada was sitting in front of all the devotees, and he smiles at us, and he says, "This is my sex life." Meaning all of these family members, simply an extension of the sex life of one man. His wife, his children, his nephews, his nieces, his grandchildren. This is my sex life. And we all had a quiet laugh with Srila Prabhupada. So what is the difference? Kuntīdevī is coming to meet her brothers or sisters, their children, their wives. What is the difference? The difference is everything was related to Mukunda, to Krishna. This is the family that Krishna chose to appear in. Now in the Nectar of Devotion, in the description of Vatsalya Bhav, there are particular members, there are 9 main members of Krishna's entourage that are given as examples of Vatsalya Bhava. The first is, of course, Mother Yasoda. Number 2 is Nanda Maharaj. Number 3 is Rohini. Number 4 are all of the mothers of the cowherd boys who were stolen by Brahma because they all fed Krishna their breast milk. Number 5. Okay. Number 6 is Devaki. Devaki was in Mathura. Number 7 is number 5 is Devaki. Number 6 is all of the other 16 wives of Vasudeva. Vasudeva had 16 wives. 7 of them were Devaki and Devaki's sisters. Then there was Rohini and other princesses as well. They all had maternal affection for Krishna. Then finally, we have Kuntīdevī. She's number 7. After Kuntīdevī, we have Vasudeva, the father. And after Vasudeva, we have Sandipani Muni. Now, Rupa Goswami describes that these are in order of the intensity of their paternal love for Krishna. Now, why is Vasudeva, he's almost at the end of the line. And Kuntīdevī, she's before him. And she's only the aunt of Krishna, whereas the father comes after her. Now, these who are at the end, they are considered to have Mishra Bhakti. They have Mishra Bhakti. It's not the pure Vatsalya Ras of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Because Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, although they had multiple opportunities to see the divine opulence of the Supreme Lord, they never acknowledged it. They dismissed it. When Mother Yasoda opened the mouth of Krishna and saw the entire universe, she said, no, forget it, just some dream. When Nanda Maharaj, when Nanda Maharaj and all the cowherd men were shown the Goloka Vrindavan planet, they simply dismissed it because they knew Krishna only as their son. Now Kuntīdevī, she understood who Krishna is. She knew that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And later, after the Kurukshetra battle, when she offers her prayers, which are the very first stuti given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8. None of the sages, not even Bhishma, no one got to give their prayers first. It was Kuntīdevī herself who gave her first prayers to Lord Krishna, because Srimad Bhagavatam begins where Mahabharata ends. And just as Krishna is about to leave to go back to Dwarka, he sees his aunt, and he gets off of, she's running towards him, he gets off of his seat, goes to offer his obeisances to say goodbye, and she starts to pray to him that please don't leave us. Please give us more calamities. Although her life had been filled with so many calamities, she says, give us more. Because when we are in distress, when we're suffering, then you're always with us. Now you're leaving us because we have the kingdom, we got back our rightful heir, everything is good now, and now you're leaving us. So better you give us more calamities, and then you'll stay with us. You understand? So this is Kuntīdevī, the intense degree of her love for Krishna. Now some of the ecstatic symptoms of those in Vatsalya Bhav. When Krishna came to offer his respects to her, she embraced him and she smelled his head. He was 125 years old. But this is Vatsalya Bhav. She saw him still as her nephew. And not only that, she called him, this is another ecstatic symptom of those in Vatsalya Bhav. They have cute little nicknames for the children. They'll call them Kana, they'll call them Beta, so many different names. So she called Krishna by her beloved names, Nanda Nandan, Yashoda Nandan. She understood who Krishna was, and she knew that he liked those names most. So she had such a beautiful relationship with Krishna, and actually everyone had come to see Krishna. So now, Prabhupada, in perspective of this Leela, all of the suffering that the pure devotees have gone through, now they're meeting in Kurukshetra. They finally get to see each other after so many years. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, they get to embrace Krishna. They get to meet him secretly again. They get to bring him back to Vrindavan. He stays for 2 months. And at that time, he separates. He takes all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan back to the spiritual world and continues in his aprakat lila. And his prakat lila, he returns to Dwarka, continues and winds up his pastimes with the Mosal lila. Now, Krishna and Balaram, they leave this world before Vasudeva. And what a great tragedy it is when the sons die before the father. Already Vasudeva and Devaki had lost their 6 sons. Now, Krishna and Balaram, they also leave this world, and Vasudeva and Devaki are completely heartbroken. So Arjuna comes, and when Vasudeva dies, Arjuna, he performs the funeral ceremony for Vasudeva. So the devotees ask Prabhupada, how is it that these pure devotees, suffer. Why do the devotees have to suffer when they've taken complete shelter of Krishna? And Prabhupada explains to the devotees that actually when the pure devotees are so-called suffering, they are in transcendental bliss because they are completely connected with Krishna. And they see Krishna, this Daiva Kritan Naran, they see Krishna as directing everything to bring them closer to him. So a pure devotee, and Prabhupada recommends that a devotee should not come to Krishna and pray for relief of their pains. That is salvationist mentality. No, Kunti Devi is praying for more calamities so that she can have Krishna with her all the time. A devotee does not care whether he is suffering, whether he is enjoying. He is only interested in what service he can do for the Supreme Lord. And that should be the mentality. Then Prabhupada explained to the devotees that we cannot see the mind, but the face is the index of the mind. So from the face, we can understand the mental condition of a person. In the same way, we cannot see the soul, but when the body is in pain, we can understand that the soul is suffering. So actually the soul suffers. When the body is suffering, the soul is suffering. This is what Prabhupada explains. So as devotees, we have to maintain the mentality of Kunti Devi. Although she underwent so many calamities, and so many devotees undergo so many calamities, she accepted those calamities as the special mercy of Krishna because she knew that Krishna would always be with her so long as she was suffering these calamities. So devotees, we all might have problems in our life. We all might suffer to some degree, not to the degree that the personal associates have suffered. But we have to see this as Krishna personally bringing us closer to him so that we can take full shelter of him. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes, Avashya Rakibe Krishna Vishvash Palana. This is from the Sharanagati. It's in Bengali. Avashya, that means certainly. Rakibe Krishna. Krishna will certainly protect you. Vishvash Palana. Maintain your faith. Maintain your belief that Krishna will always protect you. So time is over. If anyone has any questions.
Mataji, like when we suffer, we develop a gap from Krishna. But we don't, like it's not our status right now.
I can't understand you. Just come here and speak it. Come quickly. Okay, now speak into the microphone, but speak so I can hear you. Keep it close to you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Mataji, when we suffer, we tend to develop some distance from Krishna. We don't meditate so strongly. And when we are in favorable conditions, then we pray. Our situation is totally opposite. So please guide. And at the time of suffering, what should we think?
Yes, that's what the whole class was about. At the time of suffering, we should see this as Krishna pulling us closer to him. At that time, we can understand, at that time of suffering, that Krishna is right here with me. And Krishna has arranged this so-called suffering as a form of transcendental bliss so that I can constantly remember him. That is the mentality of the pure devotees such as Devaki, Vasudeva, Kuntī Devi, all of the pure devotees. They see suffering as transcendental bliss because Krishna is right there with them. So you have to change your mentality. Okay? Practice.
Like all that ABCD formula.
ABCD?
E formula that Prabhupada like enunciation and reading. All that, or what I have to do actually basically in practice.
If you see some suffering, you see that suffering as Krishna bringing me closer to him, because you can then take complete shelter of him. Avashya rakibe Krishna vishvas palana. I keep that sloka on my altar, and every day I say that sloka after my first Gayatri. Avashya rakibe Krishna vishvas palana. Okay, you put that on your altar, and you pronounce that every day, and then when there's some difficulties, you remember that Krishna will protect you. Okay? Hare Krishna. Jai. Any more questions? Can you quickly give him the microphone? Run.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisance. One question is, as you know about mentioned that when the voice versus soul,
You can sit here.
so you mentioned that when the body suffers, the soul also suffers.
That's what Srila Prabhupada said. That's a symptom of the soul suffering when there's pain in the body. Yes.
But one thing from Mukunda, we understand that the soul is like eternal knowledge and bliss.
Yes.
So, like, how do I sort of reconcile with that fact that the soul suffers when the body suffers?
You can just take it to be that this is what Srila Prabhupada said, and we can understand that although the soul is aloof from the body, when the soul is encaged within the body, therefore, when, just as at the time of death, it becomes so unbearable for the soul that the soul leaves the body. So therefore, we should avoid suffering because, and therefore we should avoid birth and death as well. And we should allow the soul to return back to the spiritual world to enjoy with Krishna. So that suffering is observed by the soul because the soul is within the body. And if that suffering becomes too extreme, then the soul leaves the body. Okay? Fine. You can take it to the extreme and then understand it from that viewpoint. Okay? Fine. All right. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.